3, 2, 1. Oh, I forgot to get the bottom. Oh boy. Oh, jeez. I messed up. What up, my roomies, and welcome back to the technical guide to Minecraft. And today we have a bit of a problem. While I was sweeping the floor, I managed to get myself quite a bit of ancient debris, which is gonna be incredibly useful for later. But the problem is you can't really see it that well either, but it's pretty hard to see. Oh, there's one right there. There's like a lot of ancient debris flowing around this area. In fact, if I were to zoom in just a little bit using the FOV slider, you can see that there's just a bunch of them all over the place. And the problem is, if I try to make the Wither Skull farm now, there might be ancient debris that's about that might cause enemies to spawn in that area, thus defeating the process of making this a perimeter. So I'm going to take care of this problem in two ways. One, we're going to find out all the ancient debris by making it easy to see, and two, kind of make this area look good. As you know, I haven't really prioritized making things look good, and as more and more players play on the server, I kind of have to represent, to be fair. So yeah, we are going to do this by making a concrete processor. And if you could see behind me, you could kind of get a glimpse of the idea that I'm going to have. I'm going to cover this entire area with white concrete, but we don't want to go into the trouble like we did back at the Void Trader where we manually processed all the concrete. No. We're going to figure out how to do this automatically. And while we're at it, get a lot of obsidian. So, welcome to Gigacore, where safety is a concern. Here is an introduction to trip hooks. See, trip hooks, when you have a string next to them, activate a redstone pulse. The interesting thing about this game mechanic is that a gravity block would land at the same time a trip hook triggers a slime block piston. It'll keep bouncing up and down. Using this game mechanic, you could have it so that when a gravity block hits the slime block, the momentum pushed by the slime block upwards could then push it through a water block. But not only that, since it sends a redstone pulse, if you time it right, you could have a regular piston push it forward. So if I were to just demonstrate, so the water converts the concrete powder into regular concrete, and then the piston pushes it forward so the next one could then process. In the event that there is a buildup of gravity blocks, if you put a coral fan in top, because coral fans will stay on top of the slime block even if it's moving, as shown in the previous episode with the TNT dupers, the buildup of gravity blocks will then break. Now in this case, it breaks the string, but the way that we're going to set this up is that it won't actually have to break the string, and the machine will then self-correct itself more or less. But in order to do these, we obviously need trip hooks and string. Now I got trip hooks from fishing, and I did kill some spiders, but nowhere near enough. So these are just basic, really basic dupers. So in the case of trap hooks, if one were to just walk through, the trip hooks then duplicate itself. Let me demonstrate again. We activate it, and as soon as we get off, because of the way the game mechanics work, the trip hooks then replicate itself. Now, this doesn't really have many uses, and honestly, you're not going to be using trip hooks that much. But for this machine, and for select, very select machines, you can get yourself a bunch of trip hooks without much of an issue, other than the time needed in order to make these, which honestly, really not that worth it, other than to make hyper-specific machines like this one, or I don't know, selling emeralds. But like when you have other choices like Fletcher's or iron farms or berry farms, selling trip hooks for emerald is kind of obsolete. And as far as string goes, we put down 3 string, and when we open up that trapdoor, thus letting the water out, it'll then duplicate 1 string. So then what started off as 3 string now ends up as 4 string. Again, really not that worthwhile, and the uses for these dupes really is very limited in scope, but when you're in a pinch, there's your options. I don't have a spider farm and my iron is starting to run low. We're going to use these really low-tech dupes to get items that are very niche. In the infinite gravity block duper, we talked about how this machine can dupe gravity blocks by launching these gravity blocks forward, bouncing into the end while also latching onto the slime blocks, thus duping on the other side. And on the other side, we have basically built a contraption that combines the game mechanics that we introduced earlier in this episode. So the way this works is that if we were to turn this off, thus starting the machine up, the gravity blocks will then launch forward and then trigger this trip hook wire. Gravity blocks will then shoot up, and through precise timing with repeaters, will get pushed forward. Then the gravity blocks will then go over here and bounce up. Now you'll notice that there are 3 blocks here, and the reason is quite simple. Duping gravity blocks in this formation, there are 3 blocks in 1 block, and by using the momentum gained from pushing it up with a slime block, the 3 blocks in question will go through upwards. The first block will turn into white concrete on the first one, the second one on the second, and finally the third on the third. Because this is pushing it with such momentum, all 3 blocks turn into white concrete blocks. And finally, using the timing, we delay it a little bit more when all 3 white concrete powder turns into concrete powder. This is then timed to then push the white concrete forward, thus allowing space for the gravity blocks to come up and basically start the cycle up all over again. Now, in the event that this gets clogged up, the coil fan over here, when the gravity block bounces, will fall. And because there's nowhere for it to go, will then break because gravity blocks don't like landing on non-flat surfaces. And since coil fans are taking up that spot, will then break into the item form, and thus doesn't break the system in the case like the one here, where the block itself is blocking the entrance. Now you might be wondering what this thing is for. This area also uses ianxofour's Obsidian Farm. When a wither spawns here, it'll break the obsidian below, and so whenever this area gets renewed, new obsidian takes its place and then gets broken by the wither, thus getting really quick obsidian. One thing to note, that this farm is very dangerous in that if you're not setting the game in easy mode, there's a chance that it'll throw a blue skull in a random direction, meaning that if you're on hard or normal difficulty, the blue skull might actually break your machine. If you're going to use the Obsidian Farm, to make sure that you're setting your game to easy, because this is a very delicate machine, as you could tell by all the different parts. And as machines get more and more sensitive, even the slightest change of the machine can break it. Now, as far as getting the aggro off of the player and onto something else, we have ourselves a bunch of snow golems instead. These snow golems will then shoot the wither, and this is for 2 reasons. The wither won't actually break the obsidian below in a fast enough manner unless it's getting hit by something, in which case it's going to be the snow golems. The snow golems don't actually do damage, thus the wither's HP won't go down, but because it's getting hit, it'll continuously keep breaking the obsidian. And since this machine is going to keep making more and more concrete, the obsidian will keep refreshing. All you need to do when setting up this farm is making sure that the dupes themselves are timed so that the obsidian farm will continuously refresh with no gaps in between. Now, in order to start up the obsidian farm, you first have to activate the wither, which is arguably the most dangerous part. So what you're gonna do is put down a block formation like this, 3 right underneath the closest side to the snow golems, and then 2 right underneath the chain. Now, the reason why we use a chain here is because the wither's head will go up, but because there's just enough distance, the side heads won't touch anything, and its body will remain right underneath. But because the head is being pushed down, it's basically a very low-tech, albeit very risky wither cage. So you want to put up formation like this, and then right underneath the end stone, you want to delete it, so that when the wither gets summoned, it'll immediately drop down. See, just like that. Then while the wither is going up, you just want to go away for a moment, in the collection area preferably, and now the obsidian broke for the first time. And as you can see, the snow golems are shooting the wither at a quite quick rate, and for every time it gets hit, it'll break the area around it. In this case, it'll be the obsidian. Now, there is a chance when the wither spawns, it'll break some of the contraptions, which is why I always say to understand how this machine works. If you want to play around with this machine, there's going to be a schematic file in the description below. As far as the overworld side goes, you want to make sure that the repeaters are on max delay on each one of these, so that the timing in which the white concrete powder will go into the end, thus renewing the obsidian farm, will be staggered, and will always keep the obsidian farm loaded and renewed. So once we turn this on, you'll see that the machine starts working. We'll go into the end, and then you can see that the machine begins working. Now, as far as entering the end, because the wither is both on easy mode and is already aggro to snow golems, he's pretty safe and won't actually attack the player. Well, as long as you don't mess around with it. So as you can see here, because the white concrete powder is staggered, it'll continuously keep reloading the obsidian farm. Every time the wither gets hit, minus its invincibility frames, you'll see that it'll break the obsidian below it. As far as collection goes, it's pretty easy. In a 3x3 area underneath the wither, just have it loaded up and just go down a hopper line. As far as the concrete goes, you can see that if we were to go in here, that the momentum gained from hitting the slime block sticky piston down below, that all 3 blocks are able to come up and turn into white concrete. And since it's timed perfectly, every time all 3 of them become white concrete, it gets pushed forward. Now over here, we have an observer. The observer is sending a signal through the note block. Because the note block is being played because of the redstone redstone pulse, the observer observes that this is being played. Thus, the chain of events goes up, sending a redstone pulse, and with a 2 delay repeater will activate this TNT duper. As it's getting pushed, because it's continuously being noticed by the observer, the TNT will then blow up, destroy the white concrete into its block form because TNT has a 100% drop rate. The drops will then drop down the chute, get picked up by this blue ice current, and will then glide along this honey block to then both of these hoppers. These hoppers will then collect all the white concrete and put them over here. And as far as the obsidian goes, it'll go over here, and the white concrete will then go over here. And when you're done getting all the obsidian you want, it's as easy as killing the wither. And because it's stuck on this low tier wither cage, it's pretty easy to just finish it off. And that's more or less how this concrete obsidian farm works. So let's create this in the technical guide and get to work. Quick interruption. I noticed that only 12% of you are actually subscribed to this channel. Watching this long, I must be doing something right. So if you like this video, hit that like button and please subscribe to this channel. Any support helps and these videos take a bit long to make. Thank you so much and back to the video. And now that we got all the trip hooks and string that we're going to need, let's go ahead and go to the end and build this Obsidian Concrete Processor. Okay, and now comes probably the scariest part of all this, is that we're going to unleash the wither. And if this doesn't work, then we have a loose wither in the end. And with no ceiling and no ground, and right next to really sensitive equipment, a lot that can go wrong here. So be advised, this is probably the trickiest part about this entire build. So first things first, we're going to turn this off to sort of prime the system, because when it's up to sand goes through, it'll get blocked. Sort of a turning off measure for the farm. So we're gonna prep the system, and then from here underneath this, we're gonna put down 3, and then we're gonna go up 2. And then as soon as we lay down the heads, we are just going to duck for cover. Okay? All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, I forgot to get the bottom. Oh boy. Oh, jeez. I messed up. Okay, we gotta lead it away. Oh no. Not that! Oh gosh, oh boy. Well, there it goes. Okay, I completely forgot to get the obsidian. Yeah, this went out really poorly. We're on the same side right now. Stop hitting me. We have literally a world-ending event. Enderman, stop being petty. Jeez. Oh no, I was getting way too close to the villagers. Back to the center, back to the center. I can tank your hits, this is fine. Okay. Calm down. You wanna duke this out? We'll duke this out. Oh, your way, come on. Jesus. All right, let's repair this machine. Okay, let's assess the damage and see how much damage it did. Oh boy. And this is why it's important to understand how certain machines work, just in case some catastrophe happens, you could quickly fix it up. So just to double check if everything works, if you turn this on, the farm is now turned off, farm is back on, and then we touch this, that goes up, that gets pushed forward, that activates, okay. That goes up, that pushes, that activates, okay, good. Finally, good. Okay, let's check the health up there. Okay, it seems like this is fine as well. Let's repair this and make new snow golems. That's sort of the name of progress, though. Sometimes you gotta take risks in order to get the big rewards. And in this case, nearly shattered this machine, but it all seems to be working fine. So we're gonna do this again, and hopefully the second time around will be just fine. Something like that. Then a hole in the bottom, very important, as we just saw. And before we're gonna put down this, we need to make sure we know what side they're facing. So this is facing west, it's facing south and north. So we need to remove the one that is facing east in the overworld. That way, when the stand goes through, it won't be shooting that way, it'll be shooting this way. So the one facing west we want to keep, one facing east we want to destroy. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go! Okay, withers up, it shouldn't be shooting any skulls, which means the farm should be fine. And let's do a quick look around to make sure that everything is in order. Okay, this is missing wire, this is missing string. Fine. Overall, not that much damage. This is not bad, not bad. Alright, now that this place is good to go, it's time to turn the chunk loader on and turn this machine on as well. Alright, we got 8 full shulker boxes of white concrete, and this one just filled up. And the other one's gonna fill up, but we really don't need that much. And as for the obsidian, ooh, that's concrete powder. You shouldn't be in there. As for the obsidian, we have 6 full shulker boxes of obsidian. And with this, we're gonna layer that entire area full of white concrete. The obsidian is just a bonus, because I'm gonna need obsidian later on. But as you can tell from my limited shulker boxes, because I still haven't technically made a shulker shell farm yet, we're at max capacity, more or less. So yeah, we're gonna turn this off by killing the wither. Yeah, it's always funny to me that because it's aggro to the snow golems, it doesn't actually see me. So I can do things like this. Cheese! Alright, let's turn this off. Oh. Okay, that's off. It doesn't seem to have affected the machine at all, which is good. So just collect any extra obsidian that's just lying around. That's how you get a bunch of obsidian and a bunch of white concrete, more or less.